Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello and welcome to episode 127 of Mythos Busters. We're recording on a Sunday night, which is a little atypical for us, but it's also 7 p.m. my time on a Sunday night, so this feels especially freaky-deaky. It's early. It's still technically the weekend. I'm entertaining thoughts of maybe having game time after we're done for the first time in a long time. As always, I'm Nick. Not as always, Sean's not with us tonight. He got corned, so he will be out this episode, and I will let you all think about what that means.
Yeah, happens to the best of us.
It does. With me, as always, is Ian. Ian, how you doing?
Hello. I am, I'm good. I was very excited at the prospect of having all four of us, but the curse struck once again. And,
the curse with a capital K came once more.
The corning, as some call it.
Yeah, it has been known to be called the corning. With us as well is Scott. Hi, Scott.
Hi.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm okay. I am well medicated. Because I'm pretty sure my daughter brought home an illness from daycare, and there's like a 50-50 chance it might be COVID, so we'll see. But
all right, listeners, put in your guesses now what Scott has.
I mean, like, what new I have, right? Like, we're not counting
sure.
like the laundry list of previous,
Right. Tonight's episode, we have our normal show opener stuff. We have some patron stuff. No news, no rules stuff as far as I know, right, Scott? Any new stuff this week? Nice. Yeah. Then we'll get right back into our player card reviews that we'll be doing for the rest of our lives, which is, of course, the Edge of the Earth multi-class cards.
It seems like that at some points. Like
yeah, right.
We're getting there. I can see why many people broke these up into, like, manageable chunks where we're just... We're not planning anything. We're just talking. And
yeah,
it's going.
Mm-hmm. It's just a time filler, and boy, is it filling time. Yeah. So who knows when we'll be done with all of these cards, but it's not tonight, that's for sure.
Challenge accepted.
Oh, God. No, like I said, I was hoping maybe to get some game time after this. So, all right. So to get started, Sean has mentioned it in the last couple episodes, but Edge of the Earth. I always want to say Edge of the Empire, but it's not. It's Edge of the Earth. Our Dissonant Voices tracks are all out, so that should all be available on YouTube, and if you use Arkham cards, it should all be on there, so hopefully you've been enjoying that. I think we've mentioned that enough weeks in a row now where I can just remove that from the show notes. That's what I'm going to do.
Arkham cards, the integration is super slick.
Oh, it's
and
awesome.
Like, the fact that you, like, you type in all your story stuff, or whatever, you make the choices, and then it just pops up, like, here's the next story bit. Do you want it read to you? Yes. Boop. Right? Like, it stops when it's supposed to stop, takes you to the next thing. Like, oh my God.
It has made my Arkham playing so much easier, so much simpler. And it honestly shaves a good amount of time off of me playing Arkham, like how long it takes, because I can do the setup and tear down while I'm also listening to the voices of my fellow busters. So it also kind of feels like I'm playing with you guys, which is always nice.
Or unless it's you, then you're just talking to yourself.
Then that's when it's weird. And I think that's why I haven't started Edge of the Empire, because the first half of Edge of the Empire is me.
You've said Edge of the Empire twice now.
Oh my God!
Don't worry, I do it.
Oh Jesus! EOTE. Yodi. Anyway, Iron Man is coming up. This is Iron Man 5. Which is super exciting. Also crazy. If you're like me and you missed one, it's Iron Man 4. But for everybody else, it's Iron Man 5. We're releasing details on it more. But what's going to happen is we put up a page now at mythosbusters.com, so you can check that out. It will be taking place Saturday, May 14th. We will be starting in the morning. We don't have a set time yet, but obviously it'll be sometime, I would guess around 10 a.m. Central. And then we play all day, as you well know. More details are going to come, but it will be the 4 Mythos Busters. We will be playing this together. and our hope is to stream it. But like I said, more details will be coming, so you know, keep an eye on that mythosbusters.com page. I'm super excited for this, especially being Iron Man-less last year. So I'm really excited to get into, I would say, probably one of the crazier Iron Mans with the Dream Eaters.
Most complicated for sure.
Yeah. And then next year we'll be like back to basics with Innsmouth, and then we'll go totally off the rails with Edge of the Earth. God damn it. So, but no, really, really excited for Dream Eaters though. Honest, it's gonna be awesome.
And anyone else like who's planning to do Iron Man, there's some information on the website. There's a channel on our Discord if you want to get your team together or find other people to play with. We're going to be helping people find other players as well. And then also start whenever you want to on that day. Like if you're, I know, Morton, he started like at 3 a.m. for us, whatever year or last year when he did it. So if you're like in Europe or whatever, like start whenever. And just,
you're not beholden to the Central Standard Time Zone. You're free to to play with it however you want.
Iron Man your way. That's
And that's pretty much it for our opening announcements. So now we'll get into what we've been playing as far as Arkham goes. I'm going to start off and say I haven't played anything since we last met. So I have no new Arkham to discuss other than now I'm very excited for this. Our goats, our Woods of the Black Goat scenario has reached its beta stage, and we have made it available to a select few friends of the show, people who we've worked with in the past, people who we want to play it themselves and then give their feedback on it. So it is progressing very steadily towards being finished and ready, and the goal is for it to be ready to be totally finished by Iron Man Saturday. So that's very exciting. That's
one of the things I played recently, and it is coming along nicely. It is a scenario that I want to play again.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I finished it, I was like, oh, I've got ideas, and just stuff I want to do and try in it. So yeah, it's a blast.
Have you played any other? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I started a Edge of the Earth. See, I can do it, Nick. Edge of the Earth campaign with Casey, and he is taking Rita, and I am playing Harvey. No, is it Harvey? Who is the standalone investigator? Harvey, yeah. Not Norman. Okay. I always get Harvey and Norman. Like they occupy the same exact
you get the old white-haired white guy mixed up with the other old white-haired white guy?
Yeah, right. Like they are
both yellow?
Yeah. Like they both have 2-syllable names that are old school, right? Norman and Harvey, like old stuff. Yeah, so anyways, taking Harvey. So the upgraded talents like hyper awareness and like dig deep and those ones, the level 4 ones, I was like, those ones seem probably like the ones I want the most. Like they seem really good, but I'm like, that's a lot of experience. But with Harvey, I was like, I'm gonna need a defensive stat. I assume, Edge of the Earth, you probably want some agility in there,
right?
And he has a 2, and I don't want to put too many cards in there in my deck. So I bought a level 4 hyper awareness, and MVP of my deck easily. Just absolutely insane. My deck runs decently cheap, and I always draw it because I'm Harvey.
Right.
So...
The level 4s, those are the ones that are they fast?
They're not fast, but they cost 2, but they get 2 charges on them or 2 resources or whatever, and they and you can spend those and they replenish. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the level 2 version of that then? Because there's a 0, a 2, and a 4.
Yeah, it just costs 0, and it ups the number of icons on the side.
Okay. So the cost goes back up to 2 for the level 4 version.
Yes, but if you use it that turn, it pays for itself.
Yeah. Okay, I get you. All right. Interesting. Yeah. I haven't used any of the level 4 ones, but I agree. I'm in the same boat exactly where I'm like, God, these seem really nice. I'm spending this experience elsewhere.
Yeah. And I grabbed it because I needed agility, right? And it works so great. I'm kind of playing, I don't know, Seeker good stuff. I'm not really...
I'm playing Seeker.
Yeah, I got Occult Lexicon upgraded because
sure.
makes Blood Rights decent. I took the Archive to Conduits, or Archive to
Oh,
Conduits,
yeah.
the Gateway to Acheron, because it allows me to, like, warp us around the map, which is basically really important.
Yeah, especially in Edge.
Yeah, and I got a couple forewarned, hiking boots, death. That's pretty much my upgrades. I mean, honestly, the rest of it is just, it's really boring Seeker stuff. That's why I'm not going through the whole deck list, because it just...
Wait, you paid experience for death? That happens to me normally. Haha. All right. What who did you? I missed who you said Case is playing for. That.
Rita.
Rita, nice. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Which is, we're kind of doing the, like, I'm hardcore clues, she's hardcore enemy management, but I do have some damage on the side. Like, I've got,
Of course.
What's it called? Occult Invocation and Occult Lexicon, and Case has got some clue tech as well. Like,
Sure.
Look what I found, and is it Mariner's Compass? No.
Yes,
the keys.
that is. Oh, the key. Okay, keys.
The keys. Yeah, with 2, and if you fail, you get the charge back, or you only.
If you succeed, you remove a key. Yeah.
Right. That's it. Yeah. So.
Cool.
Yeah, it's working pretty well. So.
Nice. I haven't played Harvey or Rita. I'm sorry. Yeah, Harvey. Haven't played either of them for a while. So I should get back to one or both of them at some point. How far are you guys in?
We just finished the second scenario, and we played the complete first scenario, all 3.
All 3 parts. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do all 3 parts as one sitting or no?
No, we broke it up. We did first 2 parts in one sitting, and then third part and the second scenario in one sitting. So we're doing 2 per sitting.
Yeah, and that's how because like just part 1 of scenario 1 of Edge of the Earth feels too short. Like it feels like too short to be a scenario, but doing all 3 at once feels too long. You know what I mean? Even though it is one scenario, like doing all 3 in a row, that feels like it's too much. So that's kind of where I do too, where I do part 1, part 2, and then part 2 in scenario 2. It just seems to fit the rhythm better for me.
Yeah, part 3 we're actually doing really well, and then I forget what happened. I think I got a random discard, and I had 2 Occult Invocations in my hand, both of which I really needed, and I grabbed one of those, and then I just kind of like tipped the scales away from us, and it went really badly. Like, we got nothing achieved on part 3, which is unfortunate. But
it's funny when you can pinpoint the turning point in a scenario to like specifically one card drawn off the encounter deck or one token pulled out of the bag.
Kind of, and like unfortunately the turning point was like 5 turns in, like, and there was still like another 15 to go. So yeah, but it was fun to try, and like we didn't realize that was the turning point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
oof.
Yeah.
Ian, how about you?
I've just been playing not a ton of Arkham, but a little bit more standalone play. So a couple of the decks I've tried out recently is I haven't played Safina in a while, Scott's favorite Safina, and I do love me a Safina deck, but I haven't, I've been trying out a bunch of other investigators. So I tried Safina in combination with Daddy Chuck for the first time, Chuck Fergus. And Chuck Fergus is just good in general. I mean, he makes anyone look good. But yeah, just obviously an event-heavy Safina deck, which is kind of her wheelhouse, combined with Chuck, does a lot of work. And it was a lot more green Safina deck than you often see. I'd say it was like 70% green, maybe. My Mystic was pretty much Clairvoyance and Sixth Sense, because I was running it as kind of like a... mostly Clover, partner to like a more enemy management deck. Yeah, so Clairvoyance and Sixth Sense, Holy Rosary, Read the Signs. I think those were my only Mystic cards. Everything else was Rogue. So that felt good and interesting. And yeah, mostly it was like Chuck Fergus combined with level 3 Pilfer. Was a good combo there, because Pilfer keeps going back to hand. Oh, sure. I did paint it with the Painted World, Although that doesn't go back to your hand, obviously.
I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, because Painted World gets removed from the game, but
right.
But it's still getting extra uses out of Pilfer, essentially. And then, let's see, what were some of the other... Like, Breaking and Entering was good in that build. What else? Oh, Counter-Espionage. That wasn't really a Fergus play, but it's just a good card in general. And this is the first time I got to really use it. And yes, I did pay at least 4 each time because
of course.
Yeah, I wanted to not only cancel it but draw from my deck instead. So that's the Daddy Check Zafina. That worked pretty well. And then another one that I'm still tweaking, not like 100% happy with, but it's an interesting premise, is playing around with level 3 Sign Magic, which is a card that I haven't used a bunch, and I'm using that in a Jacqueline deck. So
nice.
If you don't remember, the upgraded Sign Magic is like still gives you the additional arcane slot, but it also has a reaction that after you take an ability on a spell, then you exhaust Sign Magic and you get to activate it again without spending another action. So
is it that, or is it you get to do a different spell?
It's on a different one. Yeah.
Yeah,
not on the same one. Sorry. Yeah, it's on a different spell or ritual. So usually you have out like a kind of how I built this Jacqueline deck is it's very flexy. So it'll have like Clairvoyance, Shriveling, Sixth Sense, and Wither. I have upgraded Sixth Sense and Wither. So if you're playing in like a multiplayer game, you can do things like, I'll get a clue and then activate Sign Magic and then also attack an enemy at the location, you know? So it just gives a lot of flexibility and a lot of like being able to leverage all these different spells. So yeah, I'm still tweaking parts of it, but I'm really liking the potential of the upgraded Sign Magic. I mean, anything that saves actions is obviously good, but as long as you have like a few different spells out, then you're always going to get use out of it. Like even if you are, let's say, doing all Clover, like you can do a Clairvoyance and then activate it to do a Sixth Sense or something like that. Right. So, yeah.
I added Sign Magic 3 to my Akachi deck. That I'm running through Innsmouth with Roland last time that I talked. And what I mainly use it for is because in that Akachi deck, I got the Offer You Can't Refuse weakness.
Gross.
Yeah, and the first 3 scenarios I played, she rocketed right up to Sell Your Soul, the highest level of that. So the next time I got experience, what I first did was I bought the upgraded version of Alchemical Transmutation. And then I bought the upgraded version, the upgraded Sign Magic. And so now basically I try and get, and I have stuff that gives me extra arcane slots in play. So I try to get both Alchemical Transmutations in play and a Sign Magic so that I can Transmutation, Sign Magic, Transmutation, and just try and rocket my resources up so that when I eventually draw Sell Your Soul, I'll have 10. Oh my God, it sucks. That is one of the most anxiety inducing campaigns that I've had, like ignoring what the scenario is doing, just what my deck does to me. It's so anxiety inducing. Oh my God.
Offer You Can't Refuse is one of those weaknesses that changes how you play the game.
Yes. Oh
like
yeah.
It alters your upgrade path. It alters your mulligans. It like just everything. I've had that one recently. I think it was in Daisy, and it was like getting shot in the kneecap before you start the scenario.
It's
like
not
even
great.
if you don't see it until 2/3 through, you're still like, man. And I'm one of those people. I'm like, well, I need to have 5 resources on hand at all times. So I essentially start at 0. So
right, yeah. And if you get to Sell Your Soul, then you have to get up to 10, which is where Akachi's at. And yeah, so it's like I have 2 Uncage the Souls in my deck. I made space for 2 Sacrifices. I have 2 Alchemical Transmutations. It's like, no, keep giving me the resource options. I think I have an emergency cache in there too. It's like, I need to get that. I need to make everything as cheap as possible because it's a high resource deck. I mean, it's Akachi, so you're running spell assets and they're not cheap. So,
are you running Unleash the Soul?
Yes, yeah. I'm pretty sure she still has 2 in that deck. I'm not sure, but
That is kind of interesting, though. I think that's for the upgraded sign magic. That is like leaving aside the stress you're experiencing. I think it does kind of open the door for bringing in some of those spells that often you're like, I don't have time to spend an action on that. Whether it's like alchemical or scrying outside of Gloria, or let's see what else. Like some of the healing type spells.
Oh, sure.
Usually, you don't want to spend time on that, and this Jacqueline deck doesn't, because it's just built to do more bread and butter, like fighting and cluing. But I could see decks where like the upgraded sign magic actually like gives you time to play those, because you don't need to spend an action on it.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, sign magic comes out fast, and then it essentially gives fast to the action of using that spell. The only thing you have to do is play that spell.
Right.
Or ritual. But
and pay the resource cost of sign magic. But yeah, it's which, you know, when you have sell your soul as your weakness, that's a big thing.
and also upgrade into it.
And also upgrade it. Yeah, all you got to do is get there, and but once you get past all those hurdles, it's great.
All you got to do is build the house, furnish it, paint the walls, and you can live in it.
Then you got a place to live.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why you do it in standalone. You just fast forward past the hard part.
Exactly. Oh, nice. God, now I want to get back to that campaign now that I've talked. I mean, I do, but also, again, I think about Sell Your Soul, and I'm like, I'm okay if I just maybe scoot that campaign and start over. All right. Well, if you, dear listener, want to let us know what you've been playing, or bring up an investigator that we may not have talked about in a while, or maybe you came up with a crazy new build that you want to discuss, like maybe Ian's Underworld Gené build that's currently on the front page of ArkhamDB. Check that shit out; it's amazing. But you can give us a call. You can and should post that on ArkhamDB. But you can also give us a call and leave us a voicemail talking about it, and we can discuss it. Our phone number, as always, is 203-493-MYTH. That's 203-493-6984. If you're on Facebook on your phone, you can click the call button and it calls us right away. We still have an outstanding voicemail from Sub-Zero Joe. We will get to that once we get through this slog of card reviews from Edge of the Earth. So rest assured, Sub-Zero Joe, we will get there. It's just you gave us a meaty message and we want to devote the proper time to addressing it. And as always, if voicemails aren't really your thing, you can always record a message and email it into us. That works as well. Ian, well, what's our patron business like?
Sure. So first off, thanks to our board members. That's Chris B, Chris H, Chris M, and Chris U, our conglomeration of Chris's. Morton, Jared, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Patrick, Abilio, Jesse, Chad, and Robert. Thanks so much, board members, for all that you do and making those important decisions behind the scenes. Special shout out to a random patron. This time around goes to Chin Hong Lee. Thank you so much for your support as well. And thanks for listening as well. Make sure you check out our merch website, mythosmerch.com. Check out all the cool swag and merch we have to offer. Wear it out in the wild. Show it off in public, and send us any pictures of you doing that, because we do enjoy seeing or even hearing stories sometimes of if anyone actually recognizes it in the wild. That's a big win for us, and you know, we live for little and big wins. We do have one job title to give out this time around, and I believe Scott is gonna give out this job title.
Yeah, well, Illrigger has taken a new seat in our office. You may have heard some of the accusations heading towards the Cyclopean Hammer, and some people shaking their fist and demanding it be held to account in the Court of the Taboo, or Nerf, or what you want. But we have assigned Illrigger. He is he or she, actually, I don't know their pronouns. They are the public defender assigned to Cyclopean Hammer in the Court of the Taboo. So, pretty hefty job title. Pretty serious, if you ask me.
That
Yeah,
can
the
really
Mythos
make or
Busters.
break a career.
Yep.
It's a big call, big ask for our first Mythos Busters Law Offices position, but we think it's worth it. And yeah, you know, honestly, after all the discussion that we had last week regarding Cyclopean Hammer, I don't know which way. I mean, assuming I get on the jury, who knows? But I don't know which way I'll vote. I guess it depends on the arguments. So, Ilrigger, do your research.
I mean, we can probably rig the jury, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I think the hardest part of this case is not going to be confusing the Cyclopean hammer with the judge's gavel.
That'd be great if the judge has a gavel that is like painted to look like the Cyclopean hammer, and then it's like,
theme.
oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, geez, this is
just for this case.
It'll be a tough case then, in that you know that judge is swinging one way. All right. There's been no new news since last week. Dunwich is still available, so if you don't have it, go get it. If you have it, go get it, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's your money. You decide. Scott, there's no rules this week, is there?
No, nothing I can... I've been quite busy these last 2 weeks, so...
There are no rules.
No rules.
I've abandoned the rules.
All right, well then we'll get right into our card reviews, and we're starting where we left off from last week. Last week we read everybody's favorite hammer, and this week we're going to start with everybody's second favorite hammer, which is the Sledgehammer. The Sledgehammer is a Guardian Survivor level 0 asset, costs 3 resources, has a combat icon. It is item, tool, weapon, melee traded, and it has action, fight. You get -1 combat and deal +1 damage for this attack. Action, fight. You get +2 combat and deal +2 damage for this attack, and it takes up 2 hands. One thing I didn't notice until literally right now, this is tool traded.
I mean, it technically is a tool.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. I didn't expect that. So I guess Joe Diamond can use this and his 45s. Yeah.
Yeah.
No bandolier required. That's
a funny image. Holding a gun in each hand, also holding a sledgehammer.
I don't know how he does that, but yeah.
It's pretty cool. I love the design. I really love the action -1 combat +1 damage. I think that is very thematic. And then I also like the double action fight because, I mean, I know I'm not the world's most physically fit person, but holy cow, sledgehammers are heavy and they're hard to swing properly without actually hurting yourself. So I totally get that 2 actions is what it requires to use this thing effectively.
Yeah, it's neat. You know, like I use the sledgehammer in the Zoe Cyclopean Hammer Singleton, the 21 or bust
21 Thumb Street
deck, as like a backup one. At least that's the suggested backup weapon.
Sure.
I've been considering taking it out and just running with the single hammer, but then you risk some issues. The design is top notch, and the flavor text. Once we get to the upgraded one, this one is 20 pounds of steel vengeance. We'll get there, but I just want to point that out there. Super themey.
I've used this one quite a bit. I actually like this one a lot. Again, anything that doesn't rely on ammo and charges, you're just going to be able to keep using it. Generally, I've used it in investigators who are like higher combat, obviously, like the 5 combat ones, because then when you get the -1, it's not that big a deal. But I also often find myself just using the double action, especially if it's like, you know, a 3 health enemy. Like you might as well just do the double action and just try to get rid of it in one go. So yeah, in general, and especially for like Guardians have a good amount of weapons to choose from. Survivors do have some more than they used to, but for a lot of survivors, this feels like a kind of good go-to weapon. So compared to the Cyclopean Hammer, which is
I mean, that's a tough comparison though, right?
Yeah,
like, I'm not don't take my comparison to that deck as like I'm comparing the two. It's
yeah,
just like, this is the backup, but I'm like, why even have a backup? Like,
yeah,
right.
I mean, what I mean is compared to Cyclopean Hammer, which feels like overpowered, Sledgehammer feels like it just lives in a good place. It's nicely balanced, and And
fair.
I think it's a really good level 0 option for a lot of investigators, so that's why
Sure.
I found myself using it quite a bit. It's just the 2 hand slots, which can be a problem in certain decks more than
Yes.
anything else.
Yeah, I think that's what stops me from using it as well. I haven't used Sledgehammer yet, and that's the biggest thing that I look at is that 2-hand. I don't know why it's so much easier for me to throw in a 2-handed gun than it is for me to throw in a 2-handed melee weapon. I think part of it is the idea that the gun is finite. And unless I'm building like a standalone deck that I'm building for an event or something where I'm going to be one of 4 people and I'm going all in on this gun or big guns or whatever, I like the idea that I'm only going to be using 2 hands for a weapon for a limited amount of time. You know what I mean? Right. Whereas something like this, I have to play something else and to kick it out and that sort of thing. It's not like there's a finite number of uses, which is a strength for the card. Don't get me wrong. That's totally a strength for it. But it does stuff to my brain when I'm thinking about how to build.
It's totally psychological because once you run out of ammo for the weapon, you're like, I can easily play something to kick this out because it's useless. But it's like, this hammer always has uses.
Yeah.
Even though I have something way better in my hand, better than the sledgehammer, and also better for the scenario we're currently in,
right?
And, like the state of the game. Oh, but I'm wasting the sledgehammer, right? Like, I completely get it.
Totally. 3 cost though is not bad. Like that's for a 2-handed weapon that can do
Very
3 damage a
affordable.
pop. Yeah, three resources is pretty good. I actually like that a lot, and that takes some of the edge off of the 2 hands, I think. So that's great. But let's go ahead and go right to Sledgehammer 4. Then, unless either of you had anything else to say about level 0.
Nope.
Okay. Level 4, I'll just cover the differences real quick. It's basically the same thing. You gain 2 extra fight icons, combat icons. Your first action goes to +1 combat instead of -1. And then your double action turns into a triple action that gives you +5 combat and deals +5 damage. And now we're up to 25 pounds of Steel of Vengeance.
That's the most important part.
That's it right
That's
there.
the change to the flavor text.
The flavor text got upgraded.
So, Scott, you run level 0
Yes.
Sledgehammer in your 21 Thumb Street. Why don't you? Is it just an experience cost reason why you don't do the 4th?
Yeah, because you'd have to jump up to the next step in weakness. I should say it's not my deck either. It's goodness, what's his name? Starts with a name, Andy.
Oh, sure, okay.
He has like a million decks on, and like so well explained and whatnot. But yeah, so his deck, not mine. But I've modified it for myself. But yeah, it's just an XP limiter.
Right.
Limit on it, sorry.
I haven't used level 0, so I obviously haven't used level 4. I shouldn't say obviously, but I have not used level 4 either. But obviously this one looks more appealing.
Great for well prepared.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm kind of I have had a lot of experience with Sledgehammer, and I kind of like level 0 better than this one.
Really? Why? Because of the double versus triple action?
Because of the double versus triple, it's just more versatility. Like, I don't like that I either can get a 2 damage attack with 1 action, or I have to spend my entire turn 3 actions. And yes, it's a massive 6 damage attack. But oftentimes you're dealing with enemies that are like 3 or 4 health, and I kind of like the flexibility of like the single or double action and toggling those. And this is especially again with like your 2, like this is probably your weapon is taking up 2 hands.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's bad, especially if you're like, you're going to go up against a boss or something. Like, okay, you just take up your turn and do a 6 damage attack. But every time I've thought about upgrading this, I'm like, nah, I'm good with level 0.
Sure. I can see that. 3 actions is a big ask for a simple, for a single test. And even though, 6 damage is huge, +5 combat is very nice. So when you brought that up and you said that the actions, I immediately started to think, okay, how can we trick out extra actions? Who can take Guardian and Rogue or Survivor and Rogue? So I was like, all right, so you could do, you couldn't do Tony, but you could do Leo with this to get some Rogue play for extra actions, like with swift reflexes, quick thinking. But then I realized, wait a minute, Wendy could take this. I mean, she's a 1 combat, but you're getting +5.
You're swinging at 6.
You're swinging at 6. So I love the idea of the orphan with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
It's like the sequel to Hobo with a Shotgun. That's, okay. All right, that's very interesting. I mean, swinging at a base 6 is pretty good, but generally if you're wanting to do 6 damage, you're probably going to want to be higher than 6 combat. Mm-hmm. So there's that. But there's
Stella, if you fail a test in Mythos.
Oh, you get that's right. Yep, you get an extra. Yeah. So there are a couple of very niche cases where you can maybe trick out some extra actions to loosen or rather lighten the cost of that triple action fight. Mm-hmm. But you might be jumping through too many hoops. Right now, just from thinking about it, you might be jumping through too many hoops just to get there. I don't know if it would be worth it or not.
The place I've used it was in a Mark deck where I had Safeguard, and it was a 2-player game.
Oh, yeah.
And basically, like, Mark would get this out and follow the Seeker around. Mm-hmm. And with Safeguard, it's just like, okay, I follow you. Oh, an enemy pops out. Wham!
Just right
just like, yeah. Like, it was less so Mark was following the Seeker around, it was the sledgehammer was following the Seeker around. So
Mark was just the delivery aspect for the sledgehammer.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people compare this to Time Worn Brand because it's similar high experience melee weapon, which gives you essentially the machete effect, right? Mm-hmm. But thinking that this is not as good as Brand, which I think I agree with, which I think says that I think this card needs to be powered up a bit, or maybe drop to a 3 experience.
+5 combat, +5 damage. Can we get a bit more out of it?
But I mean, like, Brand is +2/+1 for a single action, right?
Correct, yeah.
And it's one-handed?
Yes. Mm-hmm. But it costs 5.
Yeah.
5 experience and 5 resources.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, this is only going to cost you 1 more experience, which isn't that much. And over the course of a game, 2 resources.
This costs you huge. 1 fewer experience.
Yes. Yeah. But with Brand, you also get the wallop and draw 3 cards thing,
right?
Which I think makes up for maybe the extra cost.
Yeah. Well, and also the fact that it's one-handed. I mean, a chargeless +2 combat, +1 damage on a single-handed weapon. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good. And you're right, 5 resources versus 3, that's not a big thing in the scope of the game, but I think the important thing is that 3 is easier to get out when you need it.
Yeah.
It's less of an ask for you to get to, 3 resources ready to play this than it is for Brand to get to 5. So I haven't played with it. But just comparing those two, I don't think Sledgehammer needs a buff. But again, I haven't played with it. And I've only played with Brand a couple times, so I'm not probably the best assessor here.
Yeah, I think there's pluses and minuses to both. Brand is a favorite of mine, and I've used Sledgehammer a lot. I don't think there's one that's straight better than the other. But I am a big fan. I keep going back to the flexibility part, which maybe is my hang up, but yeah, that might be a reason why I take the Brand. Like if this was like the double action fight similar to the level 0, but then you can spend an extra action to pump up the combat and the damage. Right. If you had that flexibility of like either 2 or 3 actions, then I'd probably be all over this card, I think. It's not bad by any means. It's just
it's fair. That's the thing. It's fair, right? We're looking at unfair cards and being like, this one isn't unfair enough.
Yeah, and I think it's partially a little bit influenced by living in the Cyclopean Hammer world, where when you're thinking about spending 8 XP for 2 copies of this, and you're like, the Cyclopean Hammer is right there. Obviously, for investigators, they can take either of these, but for the ones that can, then it's like, yeah.
But Cyclopean Hammer, just like Brand, again, is 5 and 5.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. However, I think with Cyclopean Hammer, it's easier to see the power. Like, Brand is awesome, But the fact that you can only get its big wallop for draw 3 once per game, like I ran a brand of Sharp and totally forgot about that and used it like the first turn that I got the brand out, and then I was like, well, fuck, like I can't. It's not. I don't get to do that again. Whereas Cyclopean Hammer is literally, you want damage, just turn the crank, you got damage. So, and you're always adding your will. So I don't know. I mean, but I agree. Sledgehammer is really good. Sledgehammer 4 also seems really good, and it seems really balanced, but compared to the Cyclopean Hammer, it's kind of like, well, why not just spend 1 extra experience?
When Cyclopean Hammer gets tabooed, let's take another look back at Sledgehammer 4, because then I think that's hard, right? Coming in the same pack as Cyclopean Hammer, that's a tough ask for a lot of weapons.
We haven't gotten a hammer before ever, and now we got 3. And one of them's just insane.
It's apparently hammer time. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, Scott, do you want to read our next card, which is Protective Gear?
Yes, because I have a lot to say about this card.
I know you do.
Protective Gear is a 4-cost level 2 Guardian and Survivor asset. It has a willpower and agility icon. Item and armor traded. Reaction: when you draw a hazard treachery, deal 1 damage, 1 horde of protective gear, cancel that card's revelation effect. It has 3 health and 3 sanity, and takes up the body slot. Before I launch into my tirade, what do you guys think about this card? Because I pulled up a giant list of all the hazards, and there's a significant amount.
There's a lot, yeah.
And key ones too.
Right. I upgraded into Protective Gear during my Edge of the Earth campaign, and I didn't use it a single time.
Ooh.
So I just never got it out, and the one time I did get it out, that character never drew hazards. So I was just kind of like, well, at least I got the soak. Like, I got the 3/3 soak. That was nice. But I was really hoping to take the edge off of some of the cards coming off the encounter deck, and it just didn't work. So, so I think it's fine. But I again, the one time I had it, it didn't really do anything for me other than just soaking attacks.
There's one particular standalone I can think of with a particularly nasty hazard.
I can think of that one too. Yeah,
that is so obtuse and so disgusting and vomit-inducing that Maxine printed just a straight up cancel for it. Noxious Fumes, right? And it's on theme. I mean, the guy's got the respiratory protection. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go a few of the hazards which I think are super key. Sure. Grasping Hands, Crypt Chill, Obscuring Fog, like those are just, chilling cold and ghouls from the core set. You're gonna see those all the time. Broken Rails, if you've ever played Essex.
Oh, weird. Protective Gear can save you from broken rails.
Apparently. I think it's really funny that in Path to Carcosa, when you go to the dinner party, is it the Last King?
Yep.
There's 3 in there: Tough Crowd, Ooze and Filth, and Corrosion.
Tough Crowd.
I find it funny that you'd go to a dinner party wearing a firefighter outfit. And it would save you from some ants from TFA.
Ants. Yeah, I could see that.
Poisonous Spores, another one from TFA. Those are a few of the. Dole Tunnel, apparently, from Point of No Return.
Wait, but doesn't all the Dole Tunnel do is just move the Dole?
Yeah. Otherwise, it attaches to the location.
Right, but so your Protective Gear stops the Dole from tunneling.
I mean, it's a hazard. It's just sometimes the
I'm just thinking theming. Yeah, theming is hilarious.
Innsmouth has quite a few: Undertow, Rising Tides,
sure.
Riptide, the Fog, apparently. So, and Edge of the Earth has 15 different ones.
Well, there's a whole encounter set that I think they attach to locations, and I think they're all hazards.
Yeah, the Forbidden Peaks, Hypothermia, Hanging on the Edge, Avalanche, Snowfall. Yeah. Yep. So, okay. So I don't know. I like Protective Gear. I think it's a bit expensive for what it does. quite
4
honestly.
cost is a lot.
Yeah.
4 is when you get to a 4 resource cost, that's when I start to like give the card the old side eye, like, are you really worth it? Especially in these two classes, in Guardian and Survivor. 4 for Guardian and Survivor is probably like 5 for Seeker and Mystic and 6 for Rogue. You know what I mean? Like that's the equivalent of probably how you'd feel. Like if this costs 6 in Rogue, I think you'd probably feel the same way. It's a lot for those two classes. But I like it. I mean, overall, I like the design of it. I'd like it better if I got it to work.
Yeah, I think it does, in addition to obviously being able to repeatedly cancel a treachery, which is not something we've generally gotten before. It's usually just been like events to cancel. And at worst case, it can just be like a soak, and 3/3 is a pretty good soak. I think I've been scared away from this one, yes, by the cost, and also because I know in Lord of the Rings we started getting some of these cards that keyed off of certain keywords, and no one ever used them because for various reasons. But it was just like, well, it's too hard to account for like not keywords, traits. Sorry, it's too hard to like. That may be good for a certain scenario, but then for a different scenario, that trait isn't as meaningful.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it in Arkham yet, and maybe that's why I haven't tried it out yet. But thinking about that list that you read off, Scott, it seems like probably most scenarios will have at least one. But it'd almost be interesting to like look through a campaign like say Edge of the Earth and map out like what effect would this have on each scenario, and do like that's a level of analysis that I haven't had time to, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to do.
Yeah.
But in order for me to really like settle on how I feel about this card, I feel like I'd need to know, like, if you're upgrading to this, you're kind of committing to it for a good chunk of a campaign. Like, what does this actually do for you? Not just in a general sense, but like on a scenario basis.
Well, and I think that's a great, like, you talk about Lord of the Rings and how people didn't take the trait specific ones. But I think that I want to stipulate that Arkham is better suited for player cards that trigger off of encounter card traits than Lord of the Rings is, because I think it's kind of campaign dependent. Like, not so much scenario, but more campaign. Like, you look at Protective Gear and you see that it prevents hazards. Edge of the Earth is obviously going to be a great pick for it, for this card. But if you're playing like Carcosa, you're probably like, probably don't need it. Or TFA, like the only one from TFA that Scott read off was Ants, which, yeah, that's a pretty bad treachery. But one out of that whole cycle of encounter sets, you're probably like, well, I probably don't need Protective Gear then unless I really need Soak. So I think that, for instance, if we were to see like maybe a Mystic card that did something with hexes, you'd know, oh, I want that when I play TCU, probably don't want that when I play Dunwich, So I think just because of the structure of how our campaigns are themed together, and they kind of find these common elements and common threads between scenarios, that plays into this sort of play more than Lord of the Rings. And I know Lord of the Rings scenarios are themed as well. Maybe I'm talking out my ass here because I really haven't. I don't, as far as Lord of the Rings release model, I'm not sure, but because the scenarios are more independent and you don't necessarily bring the same deck from one to the next, like, I could see that argument being, yeah, don't use those cards. They're a waste of deck space.
Yeah, and I think the comparison there, I don't think you're talking completely. Not completely.
Thanks.
No, but because like the cards I'm talking about in Lord of the Rings were really based around a lot of traits on locations, which don't exist in Arkham in the same way, because in Lord of the Rings they were in the encounter deck. But it'd be stuff like, oh, if you travel to a mountain, then it does this. Well, like, how many scenarios have mountains? You might be in a forest scenario and it's not going to do anything. Or the reverse, I have these cool boots that do something in the forest, but if I'm anywhere else, whereas like this, like, hazard is I think Arkham is pretty good about reusing these treachery traits over and over, like hexes and hazards and omens. So even if it doesn't really matter what the setting of sure, certain settings and campaigns will probably use some of these traits more, but I think in general they're kind of sprinkled more out generally among scenarios than like forest or mountain, which is very specific to a certain setting.
Right.
Yeah, looking at the list too, like just to kind of back up the ideas, I think it is super campaign dependent.
Yeah.
Looking at Carcosa, there's a total of 4 cards in the entire campaign that are hazards. Like it's just not one of the things, right?
Yeah.
Looking for Circle Undone, I'm not seeing any.
Right. Now, this isn't including the core set and counter sets that you use in these campaigns.
Correct. Yeah, like core set, if you use Ghouls or Chilling Cold, those are the only 2 sets with it.
Right.
Which are pretty common. But and looking at, Edge of the Earth has like 15, 16 cards. Return to the Circle Undone has a couple hazards.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, it's completely campaign dependent. It's super scenario dependent. So
right, and
there's
I think
that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. Like we've got that Seeker Tooth of Etzli, which I would consider kind of campaign. That's more investigator dependent, but it's also like I've never really thought about including it unless I'm playing in the Forgotten Age, because that's when you want higher agility for the most part to get away from those vengeance enemies. Yeah. And it's just, so it's okay. I think it's totally okay to have player cards that are campaign dependent. Locking this one, which is we would consider a little bit more campaign dependent, locking it behind 2 experience and 4 resources mean you really have to plan about it.
Yeah.
God, that 4 resources is high, but again, you're getting a 3/3 soak that could potentially cancel an encounter
Noxious
card or
fumes.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it noxious fumes. Yeah, totally. Go ahead.
I was gonna say before I go into my giant tirade, I think it's actually might be best in standalones. Like looking at Curse of the Rougarou, it's a bunch it can cancel. It looks like eight treachery cards in there, like multiple copies, but
right.
Carnival, it's got like another 8 cards.
Sure.
So I think there's a few, murder at the hotel is just Noxious Fumes, and then just a couple. Well, it has 2 cards from the Alien Interference Vial Experiments, so you might not get those, right? Like you might not encounter those cards. So
right, I got you. I will say that I like the idea of a Guardian taking protective gear and first watch and digging through the top of the deck for hazard cards to then deal to themselves and then cancel.
Playing across the table from Gloria.
Yeah, or not even like first watch. You look at the top, however many cards, and you deal as many as you want to yourself, and then you deal the rest out. So if you're playing a 4-player game, first watch, look at the top 4 cards, find 2 hazards, give them both to you, maybe cancel the worst one, and put the other one in play or something. Like I like that idea of this kind of adding to that. Yeah. No, let me go first. Let me play this encounter deck and be a bit more of a tank for the group. I kind of like that. That's cool. But for 4 costs, 2 experience, that's still a lot. So
yeah. Okay, quick tirade.
Yeah.
The art looks amazing, but factually, as a person who works with firefighters, I know for sure that even the fighting gear nowadays, like, it's not meant to withstand someone walking through fire. Like, it's meant to stop like the licks of flame and like insulate you. But like, unless it's a life or death situation, they are not trouncing through flame like this guy with a hose in hand. Like, they'd be dead.
The fact that he has he's basically wearing a trash bag.
Yeah. Exactly.
And he's got a hose and he's in the middle of the inferno. Like, did he get lost? Like, did he get separated?
It looks amazing, but this guy is no longer with us, right? Like, he just...
I don't want to see the next 5 seconds of this scene.
Well, you know what the next 5 seconds is? Just remove him from the picture and just have the flames. There you go.
There you go. It's a magic trick.
It's it's a helmet on a pile of ashes. That's what it is.
Like, the fabrics they wear nowadays are so advanced at stopping fire, but I mean, it can still catch fire. You know what I mean? Like, it's meant to stop heat and insulate the person. It can't.
Right.
You can't stand in flame with the hose. Like, anyways, sorry. And like, not all of them is covered even, right? Like, it's still the side of the face and the neck and stuff. Oh man, you'd have so many burns.
Yeah,
Anyways.
but you don't need those parts of your body. That's fine. All right. Well, Ian, do you want to read Pocket Telescope for us, our next card?
Sure do. Pocket Telescope is a level 0 rogue and seeker asset. It has 2 cost and an intellect icon. Item and tool traits is a free trigger zappy boy. You can exhaust Pocket Telescope, look at the revealed side of a connecting unrevealed location, and as an action, investigate a revealed connecting location as if you were there, and it takes up a hand slot.
As if
the dreaded 2 words in Arkham. As if.
Oddly enough, one of the only investigators I think to use this in is Luke, because when he's standing in the Dream Gate, he's connected to every revealed location.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So he can use his pocket telescope out of his little pocket plane.
Yeah, it seems fun. I like it. This is one of those cards that I read the text and I was like, yep, okay, I get it. Like, I see that. I see what it's doing, and I agree with it. Don't think I'm ever going to play it. I don't know why, but...
This one is, like, super niche. Like, there's a couple scenarios or campaigns where I can kind of see it kind of working. Like, in Path to in Carcosa. What's the one underneath the city in the catacombs?
Pallid Mask.
Pallid Mask.
Pallid Mask. Like, using that to look at locations around you
Right.
before you you spend the clues to go there. Same thing with like Carnival. I could see someone taking this in a face check campaign of various campaigns.
Sure. That's interesting because the free triggered action or the free triggered ability on this card is I think that's the strength of this card, and the action the action is just there as like, well, since we can't make a card that just does that, we have to give it something else. And because the free triggered ability is the strength of this card, because of what it does, look at the unrevealed side of any location, or the revealed side rather, that limits the scenarios in which you're going to get full use out of it. Like, when I read this card, I was like, oh, okay, horror in high gear. I'll take it. Any other Innsmouth scenario? Probably not. Maybe the ones like the lighthouse one where you're going down and you're trying to find those specific places. But
even the first one, what's the first scenario called?
Yeah, Pit of Despair.
I think Innsmouth might be one of the strongest cycles for this.
It does reuse those tidal tunnels or whatever.
Devil Reef, Light in the Fog.
Yeah.
Okay, bad example. But yeah,
you know what? You could use this to super reach here. Dunwich playing oh god, what's it called? The one where you're in the town and you have to find the key and
Blood on the Altar.
Blood on the Altar. And then Silas Bishop is sitting in that room. You have to get rid of all the clues. You can just stand outside it, just peephole in.
Yeah, because this doesn't exhaust, so you can just keep investigating as if you were there.
That's like a Looney Tunes episode where like the telescope just reaches in through the door to scoop around this giant monster.
I could see this in like Rougarou if you're standing near the middle and the Rougarou runs past you. You don't have to spend those actions going to each scenario to grab that one clue that he drops. You just, if you're in the middle, if everyone else is chasing him around, and like you can grab a bunch of clues just by watching him through your telescope, I guess.
The only problem with that is that in Rougarou, the middle locations are the ones you don't want to be at because those are the bayou locations.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry, it's fine.
Fair enough.
You're wearing your protective gear. Don't worry.
Perfect. Sageless one in chat says Cerebro Min. Oh yeah, she loves this, I think.
Yeah, especially once she gets that level 3 barricade down. If you get it in the right spot, and
then you can telescope through your barricade. I left a hole in the barricade to fit my telescope.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think an investigator where I got some use out of this is in Monterey Jack, because he's moving around so much that you kind of sometimes you're just moving and moving and you move past the location, and with telescope I'm like, it's fine, I can just like reach back with my telescope and grab the clue even if I keep moving past this location. So someone who's super mobile, I do think this is like scenario dependent. I think it's probably more generally useful than it looks like at first glance, is my hunch, like, because there do seem to be a lot of locations in Arkham where even if you know the scenario, the locations are randomized somehow. So it helps to know, like, even like Unspeakable Oath when you're down in the basement, like which one of these locations has the thing you need, like
the patient confinements.
Yeah. Like, not every scenario has those, but it feels like the scenarios that do tend to be the ones where it's kind of really important to know which one you're going into. So
Oh my goodness, Carcosa again in the second last one, Rising Tide. It's
Black Stars Rise.
Yeah,
Black Stars Rise. You just go and check which which chapel you have.
Just tell me what your LFIC.
Okay, well, maybe I need to use this card then, because I totally passed on it, thinking like, well, I'll know when it's needed.
Whoa. Maybe Carcosa. Let's not...
Definitely Innsmouth. I think it's good. Yeah, the toughest part of this is the hand slot, honestly, because if it didn't take up a hand slot, I'd probably take this a lot more, but the hand slot is like... This is a good supplemental effect, but you probably want your hand slots for the good old bread and butter fighting and cluing.
Right. And the fact that it is. So Joe likes it, I guess. And you say you want your hand slots for cluing, and it's like, well, this clues this, you can investigate a location away, but it doesn't give you any acceleration. It doesn't give you any boost. It literally just is treated as if you're there, and so that. Like, I would love to see like a level 2 version of this that gives you +1 intellect or something. It's something, some sort of thing, or lets you get a clue from that location and yours or something. I don't know.
A campaign where this is terrible is the Forgotten Age.
Because
of Explore. It just kind of.
Or any scenario with locations that come into play revealed. And the backside has story, like Wages of Sin, or not Wages of Sin, Dim Carcosa, and that's literally the only one that I can think of. So once again, terrible example.
I think too that this one, Ian, you kind of mentioned with Monterey, but if you're playing solo, this one actually allows you, I think, a lot better control over your pacing, because usually solo you want to pass through a location once. Right, grab the clue and leave. Sure. This allows you to maybe reorder that, right? Like you can move, look back, or whatever.
Yep.
If you want to get to a certain location because you're outrunning an enemy or something, right? Like I think this is pretty decent in solo.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
So really, it shouldn't be Pocket Telescope. It should be renamed for that case to Pocket Rearview Mirror. Yes, because that's what you're doing. You don't actually turn around; just look at what you missed. All right. Well, we're going to move on now to a Seeker, one of two Seeker Rogue cards that I have gone absolutely bananas over.
So has everyone else.
So has everyone else.
You're not special.
I mean, you're right. And that is Aeon Chart. Aeon Chart is a Seeker Rogue level 1 asset that costs 2 resources, has an intellect and agility icon. It is item and relic traded. Uses 3 secrets. God damn it. Free triggered ability. During your turn, exhaust Aeon Chart and spend 1 secret. Choose and take one of the following actions. Move, evade, or investigate. And it takes up the accessory slot.
Yeah. I mean...
it's great. It's amazing. It could have one of those 3 actions on there. And I would still like it. You know what I mean?
It could have move.
It could have move. I took this in Trish for Edge of the Earth, and I loved every minute of it. I think I took it and I used it like every turn. I used it once, so it was done in 3 turns. Like, I don't think I ever just let it sit there and hold on to it. God, it's so good.
Yeah, it takes up a slot that I think in Rogue, it's a bit more competitive. I think in
Yeah.
Seeker, not so much. Like, you've got the Disc of Imzamna.
Yeah, and you've got the Onyx of the Black Queen, or no, the Onyx
Yeah.
of the Pendant of the Queen, whatever it's called.
But again, this has like 3 charges. You're going to use it up in 3 turns, because
Yeah.
you might as well. And then, like you said about the whole psychology around the melee weapons versus the guns,
Right.
once this is spent, pop it out. Play down
Exactly.
your Pendant of the Queen, because you're playing a broken-ass deck. And then once that's spent and removed from play, because you're playing Taboo, put down another Aeon chart.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
you know.
Yeah, there are ways to get like more secrets on here.
Mm-hmm.
Seeker has that kind of tack. I honestly haven't bothered because I've used this more in Rogues. Shocker. And even if you're just getting the 3 secrets, like, you're not feeling bad about the value you got for your money. So yeah, but it's worth mentioning there are ways to get more secrets on this if you want to make it more bonkers.
Yeah, totally.
I'm gonna make a brazen statement here. I don't think the secret play is worth it at the level 1 Aeon chart.
I agree.
Sure.
I think you're dirtling too much with your resources and stuff for not as much value. Level 4, which we'll talk about in a second.
But
Yes.
also, if you're building a deck to do that secret play, there's no problem with you getting the level 1 version if you're short on experience, or if there's other
yeah.
tools you want to get. Like, it's still, I would agree that if you're building standalone, what are you doing? Go right to level 4, you idiot. But if you're building that way in a campaign, you're still gonna get some worth out of it,
Yeah.
doing that same play with the level 1 version.
I'm just saying, like level 1 is a great card. Do not get me wrong.
Right.
I just don't think trying to utilize the secret play on it is good. You're like, just take
yeah.
on chart level 1. That's enough, right?
That's
like
all you gotta do, yeah.
You've completed how this card works.
Right.
You put it in your deck. Congratulations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you include it. Yay.
But I don't even think at Eon chart. Can we talk about Eon chart level 4 now?
Yeah, so level 4 is the exact same as 1, except for it gains a wild icon, and when you spend a secret and exhaust it, you choose and take 2 of the following actions in any order, and they're the same 3: move, evade, investigate.
Yeah. So you can't double move.
Right.
Or double evade or double investigate. But so even at this level, like, I don't even know if I would put in secret play specifically for Eon chart. However,
Sure.
if I was making a secret play deck and I had Eon chart in it, I would occasionally put a secret or 2 on it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
But I do think that this is good enough that, and it's relic, so you could put like Dr. Ellie Horowitz in there to try and suss it out quicker, and keep it in play. Even if this is your only secret, because we have cards that do secret that add secrets off of other effects, right? Like investigate and add a secret, or no.
Goodness, what's it called?
We have
It's
the
purple.
Yeah, we have the Sophist. We have Enraptured.
Enraptured,
and,
thank
you, Sages.
What's the one where it's like when there's a clue at your location, add 2 secrets to an asset at your...
Truth from Fiction.
Yes, and there's an upgraded one as well. I think adds 2 secrets and adds 3 if there's a clue at your location or something.
There's no upgraded Truth from Fiction. I know that for sure.
I'm thinking of another one.
But Truth from Fiction... Oh, never mind. I'm wrong. I'm way wrong. Everyone look at how wrong I am. Yeah, so Truth from Fiction...
I'm not crazy. Thank you.
No, you're right. I'm totally wrong. Oh, Ariadne's Twine. Yeah. That would work as well. So there is a lot. I would agree that if this is your only option, if this is your only secret option, it's kind of... You could do it. But I think that you'd be limiting your deck quite a bit, because now you're adding in 4, 6, maybe 8 cards just to make one card work. You know what I mean? Or to extend the use of one card. Granted, it's a fucking good card.
Yeah, but if you're going to go secrets, I mean, I think the key is, like, you're going to have a couple of assets that can take secrets, right? Like, Old Book of Lore level 3 is a great target, right? Because that's just absolute money.
Right.
Yeah, and so, like, this definitely belongs in a secret deck. However, this also just belongs in a deck that can take it.
Yeah, if you're running Seeker or Rogue level 4, like, take Aeon Chart. What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I think the other thing too, which makes it better, is like this doesn't exist in a vacuum. Like at this point of the card pool, Seeker has quite a few ways to get like free moves already.
Yep.
And Rogue obviously has a lot of ways of getting extra actions of various kinds. So then when you combine that with this card, all of a sudden you're getting turns like with Monterey Jack, for example, is my recent example of using this card, where you're just like moving across the entire board and doing some investigating along the way, doing however many crazy amount of actions. So it's really like, I mean, this card would be good by itself in a vacuum, but I just mean that when you combine it with the other tools in the card pool, it just enhances it even more, and you're just getting a crazy amount of actions each turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just has that synergistic effect, right? Like 1 + 1 = 3. Alone, it's great. But add it into a secret messing with deck, and it's already great, and then it gets better.
Or an action, or a deck that's all about getting multiple actions.
Yeah.
And this doesn't, like, it's not like you have to succeed a test in order to get the action. It's not like you have to, pay a bunch of resources. I mean, you have to pay 2 resources, but those 2 resources get you, in the case of level 4, get you 6 actions. Yeah, God, it's so good.
And this especially, like, even level 1 is great for this.
Yeah.
But also level 4. But, like, playing solo, like, I put this in my Ursula deck, and when you can suddenly, for the next 3 turns, essentially take 5 action turns, or Ursula 6, because you get that bonus move and then investigate.
Yep.
Like, I'm taking 2 players' worth of actions in 1 player turn.
Yeah.
Like, it's, yeah, the math on it is insane.
Right.
So.
Awesome. And now we'll move on to, I know I said 2 cards that I'm absolutely bananas for. I was treating Aeon Chart 1 and 4 as 1 card. So now we'll move on to the second card, which, Scott, do you want to read Gené Beauregard for us?
Oui, Gené Beauregard. 5 cost, 3 experience asset for Seeker and Rogue. She's the Intrepid Explorer. She has an intellect and agility icon. She's ally and wayfarer traded. You get +1 intellect and +1 agility. Reaction. During your turn, after you move to a location, exhaust Gené Beauregard. Move a clue or a non-elite enemy from a connecting location to your location, or vice versa. She has 2 health and 2 sanity, and she takes up the ally slot. She is amazing.
Yes. She could not have the text. 5 costs would still be a lot. But 3 experience, +1 intellect, +1 agility. Yeah, rocket. Let's go. And then that ability is what justifies the 5 costs. The 5 costs is the biggest ask, in my opinion. Ally slot is one thing. We talk a lot about how the ally slot is hotly contested. There's a lot of amazing allies out there. But the text on her card makes it worth it. It's that 5 cost that's the big hump to get over.
Yeah, that ability is just absolutely ridiculous, especially like solo or 2-player. The amount of manipulation you have where you can, after you move to a location, full stop, right? Like, it doesn't have to have a clue or have an enemy. You can move a clue or an enemy to or from your location.
Yeah.
Like, it just, the versatility in it is bananas. It's, yeah. It has solved so many problems for me in 2-player games.
Yeah, I'm so glad I'm here for this, because this is the one card where I was like, this, whatever episode Gené comes up in is the episode I can't miss, because it's definitely my favorite card in the Edge of the Earth selection, and that's saying a lot because there's a lot of bangers in here. But one of my new favorite allies, I think Lola is still overall my favorite ally in the game, but Gené's is very close. And like Scott mentioned, there's just a lot of versatility. And I'll say, when I first looked at the ability, I was like, oh, that seems useful. But I think it's only when you actually try it out that you just that's the only way you understand just how many times it comes in handy. Like we talked about Pocket Telescope, where you can like move through locations and kind of worry about the clues later. But you can do similar things with Gené, getting clues off locations that are inconvenient to be there to investigate for whatever reason. Or to just like, oh, I need to have clues off this for victory points or to activate this ability. Let me just yoink the clue off instead of actually doing the investigation. And we haven't even gone in deep on the enemy movement part. But that's useful too. Yeah.
So Gené can basically, if you're playing solo and there's an enemy at a location that you don't want there, you use Gené to basically swap places with that enemy. Like that's so good, especially for solo play. McDog in chat brings up, been playing it in a 4P TFA campaign, and I've moved so many snakes off of other players. That's another thing. The enemy could be engaged with another player, and you can just move in and just yoink it away. Yeah. Oh my god! Like it's like the clue thing is one thing, and that's good, but the enemy play adds a whole new layer of tactics to Gené Beauregard, and I can't get over it. I love it.
McDog did say snacks, just to be clear.
You're right. McDog did
important.
say snacks. That's very true. Apologies, McDog. I didn't mean to misrepresent you. I just wanted to... I just was paraphrasing.
One little thing about this ally, and I mean, this is the tiniest thing, but man, do I ever appreciate 2/2 allies. Because they can soak 1 and 1 and still be around. Like, I don't know why, but just the fact that she's not a 1/2 or a 2/1, like just the 2/2, just it's that certain je ne sais quoi, right? Like,
I mean, that is very nice. For 3 experience and 5 resources, I kind of wish she was a little bit higher, but the ability more than makes up for it.
Well, yeah, I think Ian, like, you nailed it, right? Like, you read this the first time and you're like, oh, that's cute. I think that'd be a neat little thing I'll do once or twice. And then you play through a scenario with her and you're like, oh my god, I am the monster whisperer, right? Like, you just, or I am the clue whisperer, and you just, it's ridiculous. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, then, Ian, do you want to take us through to divination level 1?
Okay, let me just find where we at.
While Ian's finding that, I just thought of something. Essex County Express. When she moves into a location, if you're playing solo, can she take that clue and chuck it backwards, and then you can keep moving?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
She sure could.
Yeah.
Because
Awesome.
it's after you move, so you're already out of the location.
Yeah.
So yeah, any scenario that's like you can't move from here unless it's clear of clues. Boom.
Once
Gené's
a turn,
like,
you can just... Gené's
like, actually.
Yeah. I will move as if I've discovered this clue.
Well, actually. Okay, I found divination. My cat is now on top of me, so you might get some cat sound effects. Okay. Divination is a level 1 3-cost seeker and mystic asset, intellect icon, spell and augury traits, uses 4 charges, action investigate. For this investigation, you may use will instead of intellect, and you get +1 skill value. If you succeed, spend 1 or 2 charges. Instead of discovering a clue at your location, you discover 1 clue at your location for each charge spent. If you succeed by 0, choose and discard a card from your hand. So this is like the clue version of what was the what is the
of Brand of Cthulhu.
The name of it? Yes, Brand of Cthulhu.
I mean, so I went into Brand of Cthulhu unimpressed, and then I came out the other side after talking to Ian and Sean about it, thoroughly impressed. And you know what? Now I'm looking at divination and going, I need to play it, because I always passed it over before, but no, I need to actually try it out because this seems really good. Discarding a card from hand doesn't seem like as big of a problem as losing an action like you do with Brand of Cthulhu. And the fact that you can dial in the charges to determine how many clues you get, it's super great.
Okay, so my hesitation with this is you're going to get 4 clues off of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, why don't I just take Mind's Eye? Or not Mind's Eye, sorry. Sixth Sense. Because this is going to get me a whopping 4 clues. And yes, I could compress it down. But then it's going to be, like, absolutely spent. Whereas I feel like something like Sixth Sense, it takes me a little bit longer, but it's then unlimited. And I realize this gives +1 skill value, but if I only succeed by 0, discard... I don't know, like, this is fighting against Sixth Sense in my head.
See, well, I mean, there's the problem is that you're immediately comparing this to the best level 0 clue spell in the game, in my opinion, which is Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
The fact... So, I would agree. I don't think that a Mystic necessarily takes Divination level 1, but I think a Seeker does. Because it lets you choose between will or intellect. It gives you the +1 skill value, and you don't spend the charges unless you succeed. I mean, that's just great for anybody. So I
guess it is a deduction. It's 2 deductions that you only have to spend the charges if you succeed. Like, you only use the deduction.
And it uses the arcane slot, which Seekers, for the most part, they're not going to have. They're going to have a lot. Compared to other non-mystic classes, but they're not going to have a whole lot. And yeah, you can commit your deduction to this test as well, and still and get double the bonus.
Okay, I've talked myself out of it. I guess, like, to me now, thinking of it as... I looked at this as a mystic card. And I need to look at this as a seeker card. As you're not going to use your will, you're going to use your intellect. Right? Like, it's going to be in a daisy, and you're going to be investigating at 6, and then you can... spend 2 charges to grab 2 clues and 2 player.
Right.
Twice. But you only have to use it when you want to. Otherwise, you just... Yeah, okay. Okay, fine. I like it. I'm not amazed by it. But I see its place.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the big difference from Brand here is that this one has the 4 charges instead of 6 charges.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I've used Brand more than this one. But I do think, for all the reasons you guys already mentioned, that it does have a place. I think it's always a tough road against Sixth Sense because it's such, like, we all know how good it is. Yeah. But yeah, I do like it more as a Seeker play, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of like, I'm looking at Brand, and I wasn't here for Brand, I don't think.
Right.
But I totally take Brand in someone like Mark. Like, it's a Guardian card. It's not a Mystic card.
Well, Brand is also good for Mystics, though, because, again, you have a lot of charges, and the fact that...
Yeah.
Because what's the Mystic chargeless fight asset is Wither.
And terrible.
I know, I was going to say, who takes Wither? Yeah. Probably nobody. I would take Brand over Wither any day.
Yes.
But yeah, when you compare it to, like, Azure Flame or even Shriveling, like, you're fighting a bit more. But the real strength of Brand is that you don't spend the charges unless you succeed. And so I think that one, there's more room for you to argue for that in the case of a Mystic.
Okay, Divination, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay, I guess, Divination.
So then, Ian, do you want to read Divination 4 for us and let us know what's different?
Yeah, so for Divination 4, we got the same cost. We gained a will icon. We do get the 6 charges this time. We get +2 skill value, and you can spend 1, 2, or 3 charges. But everything else is pretty much the same. Oh, and if you succeed by 0, you choose and discard 2 cards from your hand instead of 1.
Oh, why?
Yeah,
why
I know.
Why
we had this discussion last time around.
It sucks. That sucks. But the silver linings are you get to choose the cards, and this makes it harder for you to succeed by 0. Like, this makes it easier for you to succeed by more than 1 because you're getting the bonus skill. You're getting a +1 extra. And also, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but discarding cards from my hand, when I compare that to losing actions or to taking damage or horror, I think I'd rather discard I mean, obviously the one I'd rather do the most is lose resources for the most part, but discarding cards from hand doesn't feel as bad. Now, obviously, there's going to be situations where, my replacement spell is in my hand, and I need that for when divination runs out, and then I succeed by 0, and suddenly it's gone, and now I have no way to get clues. Like, that's obviously going to happen, but, I mean...
But by the click economy, that card in your hand is worth an action.
But, like, an action,
Oh,
3
no,
clues...
That's facetious, please.
No. I know.
Okay,
I'm not
okay.
responding to that. I'm saying 1 action, 3 clues.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And you get to decide. Like, it's not like you're playing a level 2 deduction on a location with 1 clue. You don't do that until you're on a location with those clues and you have the charges to spend. Like, you choose when to do that. The power of choice is so strong in this suite of spells. I may be swinging too hard the other way because I passed on them for so long because I didn't pay attention to what I was reading, but these seem really good.
4 XP is just a lot to me.
I mean,
I realize there's that flexibility, but I mean, it only gets you 6 clues.
Well, how many clues does leveled up Rite of Seeking get? I think it's like 6, doesn't it? Isn't Rite of Seeking is a 4, so I think you get 8.
Yeah. And then,
it's 3 charges, but you get 2 additional for each charge, essentially.
So 9, okay.
Yeah.
This one's tougher for me than level 1 divination. But I guess...
Oh, really? Like, you don't... This isn't as exciting as... So to me, I like this one better, because more charges, more variability, you get the skill boost.
Yeah. And I guess you do get to choose and discard, but it's still 2.
Sure.
Oh, no, level 1 divination is also choose and discard.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah, I think I said something similar for the brand, but for the brand, I also liked the lower version because I felt like the brand, I often treated it as more of the, like the offhand clue spell, or in that case, the offhand fighting spell. And this is, I kind of think of divination as also an offhand or off arcane slot clue spell. And so in those cases, I'm more hesitant about like going for an upgraded version when if I'm gonna do that, I'm probably gonna go for the like Rite of Seeking or even Clairvoyance, where it's like the raw clooving power,
right?
Versus this.
But I guess, you know what, bringing that up, like if I'm a seeker and looking at this from the seeker lens, and I'm the person who's running deductions, I'm running fingerprint kits and stuff like that, maybe this is that, you know, 5th and 6th copy of deduction and fingerprint kit for that clue compression. Sure. In those 2 or 3 player games where I'm going to need to be, I know I need that clue, like, especially if I'm the solo, like, or sorry, the single clover, and it's like a flexi monster hunter, a pure monster hunter, right? Like, they're just escorting me through. Right. I need to make sure my cluing counts for volume. I can see that. That's where I would take this, I think.
Also, Voltgloss in chat reminds us, and yeah, this was a big selling point for Brand of Cthulhu, which only had a 2 resource cost. Divination only has a 3 resource cost, and that's pretty low, other than 6 cents. But 6 cents, I think, does something different enough that it's not a direct comparison for this. 3 resource cost isn't bad. 4 experience is kind of high, so it makes you think about it. But so, do you think? And Scott, I only thought about this just from your little example there. Do you think that we have enough tools to get clues, to get extra clues, that you could do a 4-player game with 1 dedicated cluever and everyone else covering some other aspect, like maybe 2 killers and then a support or something, but one person's like, I'm the clue person, that's all I do in a 4-player game?
So yes, but the caveat is 2 killers and that 3rd support person is feeding the clover resources to play all their stuff. Because the issue is going to be like this costs 3, fingerprint kit costs 4. Depends what is your off class, who are you playing, like what are your
allies and everything.
Yeah, like I could see Min actually being a really good for that one, in that she can take, there's a bunch of survivor clue compression stuff.
Sure.
Like the compass, if you're broke,
Yeah.
Oh
Keys.
god. Keys only does one though, right?
Oh, does it? Oh yeah, you're right.
And then there's that event that's Myriad that cost X.
Oh,
I can't.
can't
It's the
remember the
lady
name of
climbing
it.
a cliff.
But yeah,
Anyways.
I like that one. I like that one a lot.
That one. Yeah. Fortuitous? Is it? Fortuitous Discovery?
That's a different.
Yeah, okay.
Is that it? I thought Fortuitous Discovery was one of the ones when you search your deck. No, you're right. Yep. Sages is right.
Okay. And then you also have the event you can play from your discard that gets you to, like, there's so much clue compression in Survivor that Min can take. I think Min could carry a team of 4 if you had 2 killers, someone supporting Min to allow Min to do the work of the Seeker. But yeah, it'd be tough. And I mean, I think that's more of a thought of experiment, because I think in any 4-player game, if that's your plan, I think it's just really,
what are you
it's
doing?
really dangerous. Yeah. Like, I mean, like, how, like, just take Scene of the Crime, guys, you know? Right?
You can do something.
Yeah. Like, okay, 26 cards for killing, 4 for clues, okay? Like, but yes, I think it is possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we've reached that point, yeah.
Probably not so much the other way around. You probably couldn't do a 4-player game with 1 killer, because I think they'd run out of steam faster. Well, maybe not, actually. We have a lot of events that deal damage. That's interesting.
Well, it depends. What are you considering killer, though? Because, like, Seeker has a bunch of, like, offensive options.
Right.
That they often take as, like, the killer can't help me right now, I'm just going to get rid of this, like, little ghoul or whatever. But are you saying, like, 1 killer and the rest of the people basically don't have any aggression at all?
Well, yeah, I'm saying flip the script. Instead of one person being, you know, I'm the clover for the whole group and everyone else does whatever. Saying,
well,
I'm the...
one person with Cyclopean.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, here's the thing, though. If you have, like, 3 clovers, you're probably getting through that scenario very quickly.
That's true.
So maybe that
one of those clovers is going to be bored as hell. Like, the other two, whoever's going last in the turn order is going to be like, fuck me. Like, come on, guys.
Well,
leave something.
You'll have to leapfrog, right? So you have someone in the front, middle, back, and the person at the back is getting ready to move to the front. Person in the middle is playing all their stuff down, so that when they're at the back, they can then move to the front. And the person at the front is now spending all the stuff they spent when they were in the middle. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
I agree.
I think... Ugh, that one
the human cloverpede, Volkloff says. That's it right there.
Yep.
They should make a movie about that.
Yeah,
oh, jeez.
The human cloverpede.
So, protecting the Anirnik is a Seeker Mystic event. We're moving on. I can't think of anything else to say for divination. It seems pretty good in certain investigators. Protecting the Anirnik. Seeker Mystic level 2 event. It costs 1 resource, has intellect and agility icons. It is ritual traded, and its game text reads, fast. Play after an ally asset at your location is discarded by a card effect or is defeated. Either return that asset to its owner's hand, or its owner draws 3 cards. I have this currently. I have 2 copies of this and 2 copies of Calling in Favors in my Roland deck that I'm currently running, because this Roland deck is running the Seeker allies that do something when they enter play. So art student, laboratory assistant, and medical student, those are those 6. And then I think I also, who else do I have in there? I have a couple of other allies. I can't remember exactly who. So I'm running Calling in Favors and I'm running Protecting the Anirnik. I've only gotten Protecting the Anirnik to fire once, but boy did it feel good to send the medical student back to my hand. Because, hey, medical student heals 1 and 1. It's really nice to be able to cheat that.
Yeah.
And not only to play it, heal, take soak so it dies, protect the Anirnik, return it to hand, play it again, heal again, soak again. Like, you're getting... It's so nice. So I really like this card. I really, really do.
I wonder how well this would work in... like a similar style to what you're describing, but in an investigator that can take the Miskatonic archaeology funding.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And, like, have a wide swath of allies out and just, like, take attacks of opportunity or whatever and just, like, get hit, kill them, bring them back, pop them back out again, like, and you just
Yeah.
have like this giant stable of allies churning through.
That would be awesome, and it'd be great, but I don't think we have enough other cards that play with allies entering play or leaving play
Yeah.
to really add the fire to that deck that you're thinking. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because before this, we only really had calling in favors, and that was it. And that was largely why I stopped workshopping that Roland deck, was because it was like, there's really nothing else. Like, it's just calling in favors, and that's all I got. I guess there's Decorated Skull if you want to get really funny, but nobody's excited. But yeah, protecting Go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to think. Do any Mystic allies?
That's the yeah.
They don't have Miskatonics. I don't think. They do not. Darn. I was trying to think between this and Miskatonic funding, and then also taking Sacrifice. It's discarded by a card effect.
Yeah, Sacrifice. So you'd discard it to gain 3 resources, and then you'd also draw 3 cards. You'd get both.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's straight up murdering someone with profit.
Yeah, I mean, even outside of Sacrifice, it might be interesting for Renfield, because you're just always like popping at Renfield out of play if you want to avoid the Doom and you don't have another way, and then he could go back to your hand and you play him out when it's the next agenda. So something like that. I haven't played with this one a ton just because I haven't played disposable ally decks in a while. I did try it with that being said, I did try it with Leo and Norman running this for Leo. Because Leo was running a lot of more disposable allies, but I just couldn't get it to fire off because Norman needed to be at his location and have it in hand at the moment when that happened, and I just was never able to quite pull that off. So I do think it's potentially interesting in like 3 or 4 player, but you do kind of have to, there are a few hoops you have to jump through to get it to fire off, like, being in the right place at the right time and having this here. I do also tend to almost exclusively think about it in terms of getting the asset back in hand. But the drawing 3 cards is also interesting.
I think yeah, like on that, Ian, I think something like, let's say you're playing Milan and using his, resources in the pub and stuff, but you lose him for whatever reason right near the end of the game. Like, I feel like usually probably you want, if you're playing the style that Nick's saying, where you have a bunch and they're expendable, you can either bring them back to hand or draw 3 cards depending on whatever's going on. If you're playing the type of deck where it's like you're saying, like Renfield is a key ally, or Milan or something, you have an ally you're building around, usually I'd say bring it back to hand. But if you're right near the end of the scenario, maybe you just need that quick 3 cards of gas, right? Where you're like, Milan, I really don't need you anymore. I have 14 resources and a stat boost somewhere else, so maybe you're dead to me and you're worth icons, so from other cards.
Yeah, I guess it just all comes down to the question of like, what is your deck doing? Like, are you planning on, I mean, all plans crumble under the weight of an actual Arkham play experience, but are you planning on just having one ally and play the whole game, and that's your kind of go-to? In which case, maybe this isn't great. Or are there potentially a couple of ally choices in your deck, or you are playing more disposable allies, in which case this is pretty good value, I think.
I just double-checked my Roland deck. The other allies were leveled up beat cops, of course, which this is great for, because they, by using them, they kill themselves, and so you can just pop them back to hand, so... I love that you said that you used it with Norman opposite Leo, because that was the other thing I thought of, was like, this would be perfect for Leo. It's too bad he cannot get this.
You know what's really weird too, you saying beat cops, is as I've been building decks and playing with these multi-class cards, like, I see Seeker and Mystic, and never in my mind did that connect me to a beat cop.
Oh, sure,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Right, like there's that psychological
Yeah.
barrier that's like, oh, beat cop level 2. And of course someone like Diana could take that.
Yep.
But this card isn't purple, it's gold. Right? And,
Yeah.
and for some reason that just... So as soon as I see purple and I see ally, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
purple allies. And I'm like, who's purple that has allies in other classes?
Yep.
But when I
And
see purple and yellow together, I'm like, okay, only purple and yellow cards.
Sure, yeah. And those beat cop level 2s, I think they started as guard dogs, and then I upgraded them into beat cop level 2s. So, yeah, Guardian, and, Brother Xavier would work with this as well. So Guardian has a lot of stuff. And that, again, so Roland or Joe, I think, could get some unique combinations with this because of the nature of Guardian allies and how they're meant to take damage for the most part.
And
so
Diana.
And Diana, yes, very much
Yeah.
so. So that's very cool. Or you could play a Seeker or a Mystic and just versatile in a couple guard dogs or something. Yeah. So
I could maybe... no, that's a stupid idea. Never mind.
What? No, you gotta
I was
share.
going to say...
Now I want to know.
I was going to say something like... if I'm using Dr. Malison strictly as soak, which I most often do, occasionally I use the ability. I like his ability being there, but he's a 1-cost soak for 2/2, which is fantastic. Would I include these to bring back more Malisons? So I just constantly have just soak beyond soak. But I think I'm not taking that much. I don't.
No.
That's over.
I think if you had another ally that you also would like to have the opportunity to preserve, then you might look at it. But if Malison's your only ally, then probably not.
This does finally, though, this could fit in Ursula. I know I mentioned her a lot. It finally makes Jake Williams valuable because you could draw 3 cards off his death. So,
That's true.
there you go.
Yeah.
He got there.
All right, Scott, do you want to read our next card, Professor William Webb?
Yeah, speaking of Miskatonic allies, Professor William Webb is a level 0, 3-cost asset, seeker and survivor, finder of the hidden connections. He has a intellect icon, and he's ally in Miskatonic traded, uses 3 secrets. Reaction, when you successfully investigate, exhaust Professor William Webb and spend 1 secret. Instead of discovering a clue at your location, either choose an item card in your discard pile and add it back to your hand, or discover a clue at a connecting location. 1 health, 2 sanity, and ally slot.
I haven't used
Neat.
them.
Yeah, I don't know.
The reason, he brings an item back, but he only puts
Yeah.
it in your hand, so you still have to spend an action and play it. I suppose
scavenging exists. I don't know why.
right. Discover a clue at a connecting location. That's good, I guess, for certain situations. You don't have to be at a location with clues in order to trigger him. Mm-hmm. So if you're at a low shroud location, very situational.
Yeah, and it's instead of discovering, right?
Yeah.
I get scavenging, you have to
Yeah.
succeed by 2. Right? That's the thing, right? It's like Unearth the Ancients all over again. Where,
that at least put it into play.
Right, but I'm saying it's a very niche thing, and you
Yeah.
are trading the investigation for something.
Right.
The successful investigation. So you're giving up the opportunity to get a clue.
Yeah.
In order to do this.
It's a kind of a stall out on your tempo. Cuz you're doing what would normally give you hard progress for the most part, under general vanilla Arkham, unless the scenario is doing something weird. You're stalling out on that hard progress to then recoup something that you already used up, or maybe committed to a test, or got discarded from an encounter set. So he's a very defensive card. And I don't want to say that he doesn't have uses. He obviously does. He has 3 secrets.
Yeah.
But I think his uses are few. Much like Faramir, his uses are few. I want to like him more than I do, but I haven't played him yet. I haven't used him, and that's simply because reading his text, it would have to be a very specific deck that I use him in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I have the same experience where I keep, when I'm trying to think of new deck ideas, I keep looking at William Webb and like, maybe, and then I build something else instead. So yeah, I mean, I remember I remember nostalgically the days of scavenging and the disc and keep like bringing the disc back into play. I don't know what would be the equivalent these days with Web, like a fun item that you could keep. I'm sure there's stuff. It would.
What
just
are the kids scavenging these days?
Yeah.
Get off my lawn.
Nobody's scavenging. That's what they're.
And in my day, we brought back discs of Insomnia.
And Rabbit's Foot.
So I'm sure if I took the time to look through all the items that someone who could take this could access, there's probably something there. But you can do it 3 times. It's instead of the clue. Generally, like, you're building your decks in a way that they're just kind of plowing ahead, and you're not trying to recur this stuff. You're just gonna keep going with what you're doing. So yeah, I there's probably some use there, but maybe more so in the upgraded version. But yeah.
So Scott, do you want to go over the differences that we get once we upgrade William?
So he goes to a level 2 asset. You get an additional wild icon on him. And I'll just read his new ability. He gets 1 additional sanity as well. So still uses 3 secrets. Reaction: when you successfully investigate, exhaust Professor William Webb and spend a secret. Choose an item card in your discard pile and add it to your hand. So just a straight up scrounge. You still get the clue. And then it continues on. Instead of discovering a clue at your location, you may discover a clue at a connecting location.
So that now we're starting to see a more general use version of this ally.
Yeah.
And much like what Sean surmised when we originally reviewed On the Trail, I am gonna take that same idea and apply it to Webb. This was the original version of the ally, and the level 0 came later, like was designed later, where they looked at this and were like, we can make a level 0 version of this. You know, that's what it feels like.
We can make them shitty.
Yeah, we
have
can
the technology.
Yeah.
It's
Remove that period, put in an
possible.
or. Yeah, it's just what it feels like, because the level 0 version is so niche, and this one is much more general. In my opinion.
And it feels cute, right? Like, this, when I think of allies, like, allies to me are something that are strong because you have 1 ally slot, and just generally they're usually quite strong. And there's sometimes you build entire decks around them, or there's an ally, you take 2 copies and it's the only ally you want because it's such a build around ally, or it contributes so much to your deck's idea, right? Like, I'm thinking of, like, what's her name? Alyssa in Gloria, right? Like, why would you ever take anybody else? Professor William Webb doesn't sing to me in any way on either of those fronts. Even the leveled up one, I'm looking at this and I'm like, why would I spend 2 experience to level up you when I could just spend 2 experience and level up scavenging?
Sure.
And be able to do it multiple turns, and I just, like, I don't have the limit of 3 secrets, and it's not taking up my ally slot. Right? Like, that's the thing. He takes up an ally slot.
Yeah.
Like, he's an ally. I just,
Yeah, I think the thing with Web is it's a very specific build, obviously. You're going to design it around probably a particular item card. And compared to a lot of, like, the upgraded allies, like a Gené, like a Lola, various other ones we can list off, are just always going to be generally useful, right? This is a specific combo. That being said, the reason I said I like the upgraded version better is because you get the clue and the item card both instead of doing the instead, which is a big deal. There is a particular, a few minutes ago I was saying, oh, what item cards could we recur this day? There isn't a particular item card we talked about today that might be worth bringing back.
Pocket telescope.
Is it the Aeon chart?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The upgraded Aeon chart. So potentially you could use this William Webb. You are talking about some healthy XP to spend. But you could use it to bring back the Aeon chart 3 times, the upgraded version.
Okay.
But
Did that change things for you, Scott?
Okay. Now, remember I was talking about building around? I found my new deck. Heard it here first, guys.
Aeon chart for aeons.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Aeons of aeons.
But well, that's the thing. Like, if you're running Aeon chart, then you also probably have the same deck access or card access that could run Gené. Would you still choose William Webb over Gené?
I don't know, man.
Right?
If you can recur level 4 Aeon chart
Sure.
a bunch of times, like you normally have 2 Aeon charts in your deck.
Yeah.
You would have now essentially 5 to 8 Aeon charts.
Does Unearth the Ancients, does that trigger an investigate test, or does it...
It is an investigate test.
So it triggers its own investigate test.
Yeah.
What would the timing work if you played Unearth the Ancients? Oh, but you have to reveal it from your hand in order to play it. You have to reveal the relic from your hand. Because you're testing against its cost, right?
Yes.
So never
let's see.
mind. I was going to say...
An asset. No, just choose a asset in your hand that if it completes a test equal to the cost.
But it has
If
to be
you
in your hand.
succeed- Yeah.
So if you have your... Oh, I'm sorry, keep reading.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, so if you have your second Aeon chart in your hand, you can Unearth the Ancients Aeon chart, and then when you successfully investigate, you can pull the other one back from your discard pile, put the first one in play. Like, I was trying to think of how you can get it in play without losing that action. You know what I mean? Because he just puts it back in your hand. He doesn't put it into play. So you could pull a tricky turn with Unearth the Ancients, where if you already have one in your discard pile, you could... Basically, it would essentially turn into playing it from your discard pile as long as you have another one in your hand with Unearth the Ancients. So you could get around that.
So I think that only works with level 2, only because level 1 or level 0 professor says instead of discovering a clue, and you already have that rider on Unearth the Ancients, and I don't think you can like instead of discovering a clue twice. But you're right. Well, I think so.
It's almost like it's almost like discovering a clue is a cost, and you can only pay it once to one effect. I guess I didn't even think about that. But with level 2, at least you could.
Yeah, so level 2, you could investigate with Unearth the Ancients, put an Aeon chart into play instead of discovering the clue, and then after you successfully investigate, William Webb, choose an item in your discard pile and add it to your hand.
Aeon chart, yep. And then it's in your hand. And then you use the one in play, it goes to discard pile, you Unearth the Ancients, the one you already pulled back, pull the other one back with William Webb. Yeah, so you can at least get a little bit more mileage out of it without losing the actions. That's the biggest thing that I was trying to get around.
Am I building this deck?
If you're not, I'm going to, because I really want to. Let's workshop it after the episode if you got time.
Okay, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I think the one tricky part, and this might not just be for Aeon chart but others, is like it doesn't automatically discard once you use the last secret. So you'll have to get it out of play somehow. It is the accessory slot, which is one of... Thankfully, the accessory slot's one of the easier ones to kick out because it's just... You only have one deck.
Yeah, but ideally for this tempo that we're doing, we'd want it to pitch immediately.
So you would have to have like your other copy of Aeon chart or another accessory to like kick it out of that slot so it goes to your discard, and then yeah. So it makes it a little trickier, but it's possible.
All right. Okay, well, we're at about the 2-hour mark, so let's wrap with let's do Ice Pick, yeah. And so Ian, do you want to read level 1 Ice Pick for us?
Sure thing. Let me get to Ice Pick. Here we go. Ice Pick is load. Ice Pick is a seeker and survivor asset. And it is a level 1 asset, 1 cost, combat icon, item, tool, melee traits, fast, free trigger, Zappy Boy. During a skill test while fighting or investigating, exhaust Ice Pick. You get +1 skill value for this test, and it takes up a hand slot.
Goes great with telescope, I guess.
Yeah. Ice picking from a distance. I included ice pick in that Roland deck because it had geared up, and so I was just trying to get as many items as I could that would be useful, and ice pick seemed like it would be useful. The biggest thing against ice pick for me was the hand slot.
Yeah, this feels like a like you. How do I put this? Ice pick level 1 feels like a card they put in because you want players to be able to build okay decks with just the core and edge of the earth.
Sure.
Like, it just feels cool. So.
Yeah. One experience, fast is nice, but one experience for a 1 time per turn +1 to a skill value.
And
takes up a hand slot. It seems... It's tough to... Because here's the thing. It's tough... It feels, at first blush, it feels a little overcosted. But fast...
Yeah.
Is worth a lot.
It is. Yeah.
It to me, it's really the hand slot because... Yeah, 1 resource to put out is probably not a big deal, and it's fast, so you're not spending any actions. The nice thing is it's giving you that bonus while you're fighting or investigating, so it's not like a fight or investigate on its own.
Right.
So you can get that bonus for, if you're using some other asset or event or trick to do a fight or investigate. So that's good. That's all good. But otherwise, it's taking up a hand slot to give you a +1 once per turn. So that's really the hard part.
I guess this is actually okay in Duke or Ashcan. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you're usually not using your hand slots. Like, you're using Duke.
It totally depends on the build, but yeah, for the most part, you can rely on Duke for a lot of this.
But if you had like 2 of these in your hands, and then you're just using Duke, like you can titrate how much you're given.
Yeah. This is the Flex Investigator's magnifying glass is essentially what this is.
Yeah.
Like if you're not running straight Clover, if you're more of a Flex Gator, or even if you're just playing true solo and you have decent combat, this is what you take. The nice thing is that it's not saying, it doesn't trigger off of the basic actions. It triggers off of anything that starts a fight or anything that starts an investigate. So there's a lot of versatility with how you use it. However, the real one is Ice Pick level 3. So Ian, do you want to go over the differences?
Yeah. So Ice Pick level 3 is same cost. Let's see. We gain an intellect icon. It's still fast. Still giving you +1 skill value for the test, but you have to exhaust it to get that. But if you succeed, you can discard Ice Pick to have this attack deal +1 damage if you're fighting, or to discover 1 additional clue at your location if you're investigating. Still takes up the hand slot.
Still takes up the hand slot, yeah.
So pretty much it's the same, except for you get this little extra bonus thing that you can do if you succeed to get some damage compression or clue compression. But you gotta discard it to make it happen.
So I look at this in Yorick.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm trying to decide between this and Knife. Because Knife is level 0. This is level 3, but this is fast.
Yep.
Knife gives you +2, but you also Knife you have to discard.
Regardless.
You have to commit to discarding before you know if you've succeeded.
Yep.
So is the 3 XP worth it?
The fact that you can play this for 1 resource, you can play it when you need it. You don't need to have it in play already.
Yeah.
That's a really strong aspect of Ice Pick, and that's, I think, its biggest strength, even for the level 1 version. Yeah. So I think I could see you running Knives and then upgrading to Ice Pick. You know what I mean? Ice Pick level 3, excuse me. I think if you go from Knife to Ice Pick level 1, there's something wrong. I don't think you do that. No. But this is nice because you get that extra damage. What I was looking more at was the clue acquisition. Like, just today... Okay, so let's say you run Divination level 4. You go to do Divination, you commit a level 2 deduction, and you Ice Pick it. And then you succeed, you spend 3 charges off of Divination, so that's 3 clues from Divination, 2 from Deduction, and then you discard Ice Pick, you get another clue. You're getting 6 clues off of 1 action. Like, the fact that this can go off of any investigate action and you can just choose, I'm going to discard to get an extra clue. Guys, we have so much clue acceleration now. So much clue acceleration these days.
Yeah. Well, this is, again, remember I said Min would be great for that single Seeker one? Like,
Yep.
Seeker and Survivor have this crazy clue compression.
And then you can run William Webb and pull this back.
You could.
Good, yeah.
It's a thing you could do.
I mean, the problem is that Webb runs on secrets. If he was just exhaust to do it once a turn, like...
Well, and Min also can run scavenging, so...
Oh, yeah, you're right. But maybe not in Min, maybe in someone else, like in, Ursula or something. But
that's one thing that Voltglass mentioned in chat, too, but William Webb's super off... Well, going back, is Seekers who want to recur but don't have access to Survivor. I don't know why you're playing that, then. Like, I mean... It's Survivor. You gotta get from Survivor.
So you can go, I can do it too, Survivor.
Yeah.
You're not that special. No. Ice Pick level 3 is great. The problem is I had Ice Pick level 1 in my Roland deck, again, because I was running geared up and I wanted to fill it with items. But because it was taking up the hand slot, I couldn't, for that particular build, I couldn't justify... Well, he wouldn't have been able to take level 3 anyway. I ended up removing Ice Pick from his deck for other stuff. So...
I think if you're going to play Ice Pick level 3, though, to me, you need to have a way to scavenge it back.
Yes.
So either that is William Webb, or it's scavenging, or it's resourceful, or something.
Yorick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's 3 XP. Yeah, fast is nice, but to get a one-time bonus of +1 damage or +1 clue, like
Right.
you need to repeat it somehow, because 6 XP to have 2 of these in your deck, that's a lot of XP, right?
Yeah.
Like that is significant. That is a significant deck plan. 6 XP. So
I agree, and I feel like that assumption is built into the XP cost.
It seems like it.
Because otherwise you're spending 1. If we weren't looking at XP and just the cost, like spending 1 to get the equivalent of like a deduction or vicious blow, I'd pay that.
Yeah.
But when you talk about 3 XP, 6 XP for 2 copies, yeah, you probably need some way of getting extra uses out of that to justify it, because that's a lot of XP for what this is doing.
But we also live in a post in the thick of it world. 3 XP is not hard to come by, fellas.
Okay, but I'm gonna throw this out there. I don't think that this card is worth 2 trauma.
Well, no, not for this specifically, but I'm just saying, like, maybe you get the 2 level 1 version. No, you wouldn't even do that. Fuck that. Who am I kidding? You wouldn't even do that. No, I mean, you wouldn't get the 2 level 1s.
But, okay, here's my
No, Scott! No, I'm kidding. All right.
Okay. In the thick of it, I like to spread it out, right? Like,
yes,
I don't want... It was actually Case that got me onto that. Is that, like, don't buy a single 3 XP card.
Right.
Spread it out. Make it worth it, right? So you get the... It just feels more valuable. So if you know you're going to be doing like double Ice Pick and like Aeon Chart and recursion and stuff, why not grab like an Ice Pick and 2 Aeon Charts, or 2 Ice Picks and an Aeon Chart right at the start? Sure. I could see maybe that.
Yeah,
for in the
totally.
thick of it. But
guys, when you is in the thick of it, is that a card like
always?
No, but you only got 1 in the box. But do you ever just go, this deck has in the thick of it? Yeah, the card is dedicated to that other deck over there, but we don't need the card in play. We all know what it does. This deck has it.
I don't know if you remember, like, every year I've gone to Arkham Knights, when I have all my, like, standalone decks, and there's, like, 6 of them, I have a little piece of paper that's slipped in the back of the Investigator card that tells me, like, like, 29 XP needs this many weaknesses.
Yeah.
And it says, how many copies of Charisma does this deck have?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's like, I have 2 copies of Charisma. Well, now I have more because I got a couple fan-made promo ones. But, like, it's just, that's one of the, like, in the thick of it is just, does this deck have in the thick of it? Yes, no. Right? Like, it's just... It's there. Well, it's the same thing as, was it Underworld Support and, goodness. I mean, that's the Rogue one, right?
Yeah.
Where you can go down to 25 years. Like, I can foresee myself bringing 2 or 3 Underworld support decks.
Sure.
To an event. Just be like, this one is Underworld support.
Because you don't have to reference the game text in the game at all. Like, during the actual act of playing the game, it's literally just at deck creation, so...
Yeah. The only time it matters, actually, I noticed this one time, I was playing TFA, and there is a Boundary Beyond, there's a location that says it's like 6 shroud, and it's -1 shroud for each asset you control, and those are assets.
Yeah.
That's true.
So if you have like double charisma and in the thick of it and something else, like you're already down to 2 shroud,
right.
plus your magnifying glasses or whatever. So yeah, just remember you have those assets, and for those cards that was it the synergy cards, right? Like remember class. But for the most part, 99% of the time, it doesn't matter that they exist. Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, Ice Pick level 3, it's definitely better, but I think you're playing it with the expectation that you're gonna trick out more uses from it than what it has written on the card.
Yeah. I really want to build a scavenging build now. It's time for me to bring scavenging back.
Yeah, that was the joke I was going to make about William Webb. It's like they looked at scavenging and seeking answers, and they're like, I think we can put these two together. And unfortunately, the result was still underwhelming.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's where we'll stop for this episode, and we will continue with, what was it, Ethereal Slip.
Sean will love it.
Our next, we gotta save that one. Has Dexter on the art, so we gotta save that one for when Sean's back. And if Sean isn't back on the next episode, too bad, we're doing it anyway. So let's jump into Tentacle time. Ian, what have you been up to since we last recorded?
We recorded pretty recently before this one, so I was honestly trying to rack my brain of like, what have I been doing? And honestly, not much, because there hasn't been much free time as there hasn't been for most of this year. So I'm like, what the hell? I have been continuing to keep up with all the new Star Trek shows, of course, which I'm quite enjoying. I think, honestly, the only new thing at all has been my son has been in a big Viking phase lately. Everything related to Vikings. I don't even remember how we got on this. Sometimes kids just get on random
He
stuff.
got onto Discord and talked with Dave a little bit. Right?
Yeah, that's probably what did it. I think we were actually just listening to some like tracks on Spotify, and it was like something nerdy, so then it pulled up this Viking song which was also nerdy, and then he fell in love with it, and so I told him about Vikings. Anyway, so recently he wanted to explore Viking games, so we've been playing this one called Northgard on an iPad together that our friend of the show Dave actually told me about a while back. And friend of the show and a friend of all things Viking. But Northgard is like an RTS style, but a bit more of a slower pace where you're kind of building up your Viking settlement and building all your different buildings out, assigning your villagers to be different roles like healers or warriors, raiders, etc. So I haven't played it a ton, again, because of time, but what I have played has been fun. I think because of that slower pace, because I generally don't really like RTSs, to be honest. Like I much prefer turn-based stuff because I don't like the pressure of I like a more board game feel of like Civilization, where if I want to spend like half an hour on my turn, I can do it, and just plan out every last thing I want to do in excruciating detail.
Right.
Whereas if it's like an RTS, then I have to worry about what the AI or whoever I'm playing is up to. But with Northgard, it doesn't feel as much pressure, at least the way I've been playing it so far. So that's felt pretty good, and my son has taken to it pretty quickly. So yeah, if you like Viking stuff and you're looking to dip your toes in a RTS / civilization builder type field, then I think it's a good one. And it has a story mode, which I've been playing through.
Oh, nice. Cool. Scott?
Well, I've watched I know Sean was trying to, not last episode, but the episode before when I was on, you and Sean were trying to goad me into getting Elden Ring. I've decided, I just don't have the time to get into it. Currently in life, like I just have so much going on, and I'm also obviously into Arkham a whole bunch, and we've got our Iron Man coming up and stuff like that. I'm still studying my chess, and I'm like, I don't have the time that it would take to devote to it.
Sure.
But it's also a single player game that in a year from now, when, I don't know, maybe I do have the time, it'll be there. So
very true.
And plus, I told you this before the show, but I watched a speed run of it done in 22 minutes, so it's an easy game. Don't really feel any need to buy it. So it seems pretty set. Like, $80 for 22 minutes of fun doesn't. Yeah. But one thing I'm super hyped about. We haven't played it yet, but my son has essentially purchased his first video game with his allowance, which is the upcoming Star Wars Lego Skywalker Saga.
Oh, the Skywalker Saga. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And watching a lot of videos of that, and it is looking good. Lots of open world stuff, and like you travel between different planets. It's not like one planet is your hub. Like there's like 20 planets, and they each have a hub, and like they're all connected through missions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to playing that. Still playing chess. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Been busy with life, so.
Yeah, I hear that.
Nick?
For me, last week I feel kind of bad because last episode I propped our D&D stream every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, and then the very next Tuesday we ended up skipping and not playing.
Yeah.
I feel kind of bad about it. I do apologize for that if anybody was like, I'm going to give that a shot. And then where is he? Where is everybody? We will be back this coming Tuesday, which is obviously the what is it? To the 29th. We just took a week off because some people weren't feeling it. We were missing a player already anyway. And since energy was kind of low, I was like, we'll give everybody a week off. We'll take a week off. That's fine. It gives me time to add more enemies to the upcoming dungeon anyway, so that's fun. So yeah, I'm going to re-encourage you all to stop by twitch.tv/Nicholas Corey every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central. If you can't make those times, then you can always swing by YouTube and watch the videos on there. It's a super awesome campaign so far. We're only on episode 8, so we're still pretty early in the campaign, all things considered. I'm planning for this one to go, we started at 3rd level characters. And for like a point of reference, which it isn't the best point of reference because, like, for instance, Rime of the Frost Maiden, we went to, I want to say 40 some episodes, and they ended at 10th level. Does that sound right, Ian? Were you guys 10th
believe
level?
So, yeah, somewhere around there.
So, yeah, but we're only at episode 8. They're at 4th level right now. But I'm planning for this group to get pretty high level. Like, I'm thinking 15, 16-ish, around there. There will be a big break when my 3rd child is born. Just by necessity, we'll have to take a break. But yeah, I'm excited to get another long form campaign, and I am getting little like flashes of inspiration for this campaign all over the place. So I'm jotting down a lot of notes, and I have a lot of cool ideas for future sessions. But I'm also trying to avoid making concrete plans further out than like 2 sessions max. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely, unlike Rime of the Frost Maiden, where I had a book that I was going from, and I kind of knew the roadmap for the whole campaign, this one I definitely want to be adapting to the player's choices and decisions of where they want to go and everything. I want to do that a lot more for this campaign. So I am purposely keeping myself back from planning out the next 3 or 4 sessions, which is something I could do with Rime. I can't do that here. So the only other thing that I'll talk about is the Astral Tides RPG. I know I've talked about it in the past. I've been working on a tabletop RPG for Astral Tides. While we've been playing D&D with this group, I've been playing Astral Tides with my other online RP group. And it's already been in a pretty good spot, but it's been being fine-tuned and everything from there. I'm starting to get some of the art back, which is really nice, really beautiful art that we're getting for it. And so that PDF will hopefully be available, fingers crossed, sometime in the near future. So if you like space opera, piracy stuff, Golden Age of Piracy type stuff, if you like tabletop RPGs, or hey, if you just like me and you want to support my work and validate me putting however many hours over the last 3 years of my life into this project, look out for that on DriveThruRPG from my website and everything. I want to do a print book at some point, but I don't know if that'll pan out or not. So we'll see. But yeah, keep an eye out, and I'll keep everyone abreast when that actually does release, the Astral Tides RPG. But been working on that a little bit more. But that's it. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much to the 8 listeners who made it through Tentacle Time this episode. I think we only got to like 11 for the episode anyway. So, but thank you so much.
Not our usual time, right? So
exactly, it's a weird
might have
time.
thrown some people off. Yeah.
Weird day, yeah. But thanks so much for listening. Once again, if you want to leave us a voicemail, give us something to discuss on a future episode, go ahead and give us a call at 203-493-MYTH. Otherwise, you can always send us an email. Let us know if there's a topic or something you want us to discuss. If we made a mistake about something, get a hold of us. And yeah, thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you all for episode 128. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.